Hi everyone, I hope everyone had a good week of training. My week went very well. So for this week, it was my third week of my cycle, so I did a couple of max outs in different ways. The first one that I did was on Friday, and that was with squats. And if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that, and you can also see those on my, I think it's Jim a Random channel, and it's on like my homepage. You can see whatever I post on Instagram, I post there first, so I can get the video. It's a process, but they go on there. So if you don't are not on Instagram, you can see those clips on there. But it'll also be in this video, so it'd be kind of redundant. But that will give you kind of a quick sneak peek of my week if you wanted to go there instead of Instagram. But anywho, so that squats that I did on Friday, there was 390 pounds for 3 reps. I failed the fourth one, but I was really happy with how the 3 went because the previous cycle it was 385 for 3, and I had no qualms about trying to do a fourth one then. 100% was not going to do a fourth one that last time, so I at least had the thought that I maybe could get through it. And I think perhaps maybe I could have grinded it through, but it would have been really ugly and would have really ruined the rest of my workout, and I wanted to do other stuff, like bench. That's a great segue, but I also benched on that day. And I guess out of the 3, the bench kind of went the worst, although the bench still went fine. The previous cycle, I did 285, and I ended up doing 2 sets of 2, and I wanted to do a set of 3 this week. I only got 2 again, and the issue I had on the second rep that I did that you'll see is that tricep point. I hit a wall, and so I'm going to do a lot more, or at least try to focus more on my triceps in this next 3 weeks. And perhaps I don't think I'll try 285 again. I think I'll put a slap of 2.5 on there, and then try to do 290 for either a set of 2, or if I'm good, if I could get any stronger, then a set of 3 with that. So we'll see how all of that goes. But I'm fine with 285. I'm fine. I would have been fine with like 2 reps at 390, and I'm really fine with that. With 390 with 3 reps, because my volume, the amount of stuff that I'm doing is increasing, and less in terms with like frequency or sets and reps and all of that stuff, a little bit on that side, but more of just the weight that I'm using. So if I'm able to like maintain a level and I maintain it for 3 weeks, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Especially since every 3 weeks I'm probably not going to linearly progress up. I'm eventually going to hit a wall there, but if I'm able to maintain as I'm increasing the volume with leading up to that, then I think that's a sign of progress, and not in a fun way that is as much fun to talk about, but in a way that I think is tangible in one way or another. And the last lift I did was deadlifts, and I did those today. And I got into my car. I was about 5 minutes on the road, and I realized I didn't have my belt. But I was like, I'm not going to turn around. I'm just going to try to do the same weight beltless, but I'm going to do it for a single, because I know without the belt that I'm going to lose a little bit of strength. I have a little bit less ability to lift the weight with deadlifts with that. I think out of the 3, the deadlift or the belt helps deadlifts the most out of the 3, maybe squats, but I think probably deadlifts I get the most out of the belt with that. So my goal originally was to do 565 for 2 quality reps. Since I didn't have my belt, I decided like I'm gonna go hook grip, no belt, and see if I can do a rep with that. And I was legitimately thinking like I might not be able to do this, because I'm pretty sure 565 is the most I've ever done without a belt. And no belt plus a hook grip, I know it's the most I've ever done with. I might have done it without a belt before with straps, but my hook grip was really weird today, where it was like slipping with my higher weights, and I don't know if that was a function of the bar or something I need to add into my training or what, but it was odd because I got to the top and my grip was kind of slipping, and it wasn't as if like my hands were weak. It was just like, I don't know, it was just slipping out, and I used chalk and everything, so it was kind of weird with that. But I think one thing I wanted to do to address that issue in a specific way is to do heavy holds. So not so much a rack pull, but more of just a very tiny lift where I'm just holding the weight with a hook grip, and then do holds like that, since that'll be the most specific way to train my grip. I think the issue that I have stems from me, most of my grip training being with the Olympic lifts that I'm doing, or with the deadlift weights that I am doing, which were much less since they were deficits. So I think there wasn't much carryover to when I went to the heavier weights. So I need to do more, just hold heavier weights in my hand to really get used to that and build up the really skin strength with it, because I don't think it's so much a grip issue, but more of just a technique issue, I guess. I don't know. Hook grip's kind of weird with that. But I didn't fail any of my lifts because of it. It's just at the very top, my hand slipped a little bit. But if it were a competition, I still would have been good because I was still able to hold it into that position. So hopefully with all the adrenaline from being in a competition, I wouldn't have to worry about that. But that's a variable that I don't want to have to worry about because it's something that makes me nervous when I'm lifting without straps, because I don't want to fail a lift because my hands are weak and my body can handle it. I want to fail it because it's just physically too much for me to do, not because freaking hands. That would stink. But with that being said, my next week is going to be a deload week, and it's going to be similar to what I did the previous deload week, where it's just lower weight, lower sets, and things like that. I might try to. I want to do more bodybuilding stuff during this week in terms of like higher rep hypertrophy type work. I get really lazy with that. So I really don't like doing that sort of lifting, but I want to add some of that in and really continue to build on my weaknesses. And my big focus for the next cycle, or the next 3 weeks, is to continue to add more low bar. And that's one thing I forgot to mention. On Friday, after I did the 390 for 3, I dropped down and I did a couple singles of low bar with 355. So I did 2 sets, 2 singles, and then I did a pause single, all without a belt. So hopefully once I start implementing the belt more, I'll get a little jump as far as my squats go, especially with the low bar, but we'll see how that works. I'm trying to stay away from it for the time being if I can still progress without it. With it, and just see how far I can push it without the belt, and then throw it on and see if that helps a little bit. But continue with that, add more low bar stuff in. With benching stuff, I want to do more tricep based stuff, and essentially keep all my benching and overhead pressing stuff the same, but just do additional tricep based work. And the only thing that may change is for my benching. I may do some more closed grip benching. It just depends on how I want to manipulate that, and perhaps do some incline stuff. I've been really bad. I just haven't done it. I don't know how much carryover that would have for the exact issue where I think it's more tricep based. It's not going to hurt to do more volume like that, but I think the issue I have with bench although I still was able to maintain the strength that I had in the previous 3 weeks, is that I build up my shoulders a little bit, so my speed off the chest is pretty good, but then I have that sticking point there with my triceps since I haven't been doing as much of that. And I think some of that can be helped with some incline stuff, which will go back to like more of the hypertrophy stuff next week, and then hopefully I'll continue to do that during the next 3 weeks, and perhaps some incline barbell bench, although I really hate incline barbell bench if it feels really awkward, and I just don't like the lift at all. I'd rather do dumbbells with that. So I may do some more dumbbell work, and hopefully I can actually do it and not get lazy about it, because I have a tendency to get lazy about accessory work like that when I'm like, well, I benched a whole bunch and I'm kind of sore from that, and I'll just call it a day with that. But hopefully I'm not lazy about that, and I can do some of that. It'll be easier next week since I'll be doing lighter weights, but hopefully I can continue that through the next 3 weeks of that cycle. With the next 3 weeks, my goal for bench will be probably, I'll say tentatively now, and it really depends on how I feel closer to that time, but 290 for 2 to 3 reps, and then 395 for 3 reps, I would say. If I did 2, I wouldn't be horribly upset, but 395, so I guess 2 to 3 reps, and then probably I wouldn't imagine I'd be able to do 4, but I won't put that out of the realm of possibility, because maybe it'll look like the 390 did this week, where I was able to get 3 and then kind of try 4. So somewhere in that range. 3 I think would be a good goal to have to really push myself to. And deadlifts, I'm not really sure about that. That's where I kind of have to think a little bit more about where I want to push myself in the next cycle with that. I know 565 that I did without a belt is 95 or 96% of my current 1 rep max with a stiff bar. So that's good. At least I think that I'm able to do that without a belt, and with a hook grip and all of that. So what I think would probably be is 2 to 3 reps at 565 or 570 in that area, depending on how I feel. And those would be dead stop lifts, and I would be using straps and a belt, of course, since if I do more than 1 rep with my hook grip, my thumbs want to fall off, and we can't have that, otherwise I won't be able to grip anything with that. So with as far as my weightlifting stuff too, just kind of continuing to do that. I don't have any specific goals for the next 3 weeks with that. It's just more of just continuing to improve at the mechanics and the movements themselves, and just continue to practice them and add them in as needed with that. So those I'm not as concerned about with. If I had to take away volume, I'd take away volume from those before I would do it with the main lifting stuff. But what was happening in the last 3 weeks is that I would do my powerlifting stuff, my weightlifting stuff, and then go home. I wouldn't do any accessory work, maybe some stationary bike, but that would be really about it with that. My current weight, I think yesterday after school it was 202, so between 202 and 205, so I'm just maintaining my weight where it is currently, so I'm happy with how that is. I'm eating a lot, I eat pretty much as much as I want, and I'm able to maintain my weight as what it needs to be. I think it's just under 204 is where I need to be with that. But in general, this 3 weeks, last 3 weeks went really well, and this last week went pretty well as well. I said well a lot, but the next week I really want to push to get my hip and IT band to feel good, and so I won't be as aggressive with the quad dominant lifts or squat or lunges and different things like that. But I just really want that area to feel good, because it's just a big question mark, and I don't want it to develop into something more than what it is currently. And right now it's not limiting me. Obviously, if I was able to do 390 for 3, it's not limiting me, but I just don't want it to become more of an issue with my lifting with it. So hopefully as I continue to focus on building my quads, that will take pressure off my hips, and I'll be able to lift more pain-free and be able to warm up more pain-free. But we'll see how that all goes. I think continue to focus on my mobility like I usually do anyway. It will continue to help that, but I also want to try perhaps getting some things like Icy Hot or different things, as I haven't iced anything for a while. I don't really ever ice anything ever, unless I'm like legitimately injured, if I would like sprain my ankle or something. But as far as general aches and pains, I don't really do much. But I think if I got some Icy Hot or something, then stretched and different things, that could give me an added benefit, although I don't know how much that stuff actually does anything other than the placebo effect of it feeling cooler, and the smells that you get and you associate with the feelings that you get with the substances themselves, if that makes any sense with that. And yeah, that's really about it that I have to talk about this video. If you looked at my last video, I talked about how I was thinking of perhaps doing a longer version of an informational type video that wouldn't relate to my lifting in particular, but to just lifting topics in general. So if you watch that video, or if you have any thoughts about me potentially looking into doing that sort of video, leave those down below, as well as any thoughts that you may have about this video. I'd be curious about that as well. I'm still considering whether I just want to just jump in to do one of those longer form videos. I think I may at least do one, and then see how it's received, but also how the process works for me. If it takes an exorbitant amount of time, it's something I'm not going to be able to do very often. But I may just jump in and do one long video and see how able I am to do it. And if you never see it, then it means it was way too difficult to do. But what change could happen to that is I just lower the amount of time that I spend doing that and make it like a 10-minute video with that. And so that could really round out my weekly schedule of videos. So a weekly update, form focus, and then some sort of informational video with that. So not really a random video, but more just based on just studies and news and different things like that. But I don't know, there's some thoughts I've been having about my channel. I'm always trying to make it so it's interesting to other people, and also something that I can structure more, because I don't mind having a random video slot, or at least planning to have like kind of just a random thing that I talk about, but it's hard to really plan for that. And if it's something that's more informational, I can kind of work on it more in the long term, and not just have to be thinking of something on the fly and spontaneously make a video about some topic that pops in my head. I can actually plan and spend more time and edit and do different things like that. But anywho, I rambled a bit too much there at the end. So like I said, if you have any thoughts or comments about anything I talked about, leave those down below. And as always, thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.